Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm very excited today because we have another book for the Memory Project, and I'm very excited to talk about this book because I love it so much. I waited a while to begin even filming this video because I had to process it, because every time I tried talking about it, I could feel the tears welling up. So I had to wait a minute. And here we are today to talk about The Housekeeper and the Professor by Yoko Agawa. This book was amazing, okay? Just first off, it was absolutely amazing. This is my second book that I've read of this author. Oh, the camera said no focusing. Really? There we go. I originally read The Memory Police, and that's what kicked off the whole memory project. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back. Watch that video. It's just like a little bit ago. You'll find it real easy. So this one I saw at the bookstore and got really excited. It is about a woman who is a housekeeper. She works for this agency where they like send her out to different homes that need housekeeping. She gets hired at by this woman who's like, hey, I need someone to look after my brother-in-law. He was in a car accident in the 70s. It's now 1990 in this book. And he only has like 80 minutes of memory, and then it goes away, it restarts. And the sister-in-law is like, all you gotta do is like clean up around the house, make sure he's eating, and then leave at night. And she's like, okay, yeah, can do. When she gets his file, she notices that there are, I think they're blue stars, if I'm remembering. And each blue star meant a housekeeper that had been there before and then either quit or whatever happened. And generally within this agency, it's said that like if you have more than like 4 stars, then that's like a bad sign, because why do different housekeepers have to keep being hired to take care of your house? And this dude has like 10. He has like 10 stars on his file. So she's kind of like, ooh, oh boy, okay, this could be a lot. And when she gets there, he's very brash. Like, he doesn't really acknowledge her. He's just kind of like, oh, okay, hi. And she tries saying like, oh, I'm the new housekeeper. Through observing him and just like noticing details around his house, is gathered he's this very successful or was a very successful mathematics professor, and although he has lost a large portion of his memory, he still works on math problems that are published in journals that are like, oh my gosh, who can solve this? He will solve it, mail it into the journal, and then the journal will like award him a prize and send him a check. So he has like a stack of checks that he has not cashed just because he loves math so much. And when they're first meeting, one of the first things that he asks her is not her name, but what her shoe size is. And she tells him, and then he goes on this whole conversation about what that number means. I think she said her shoe size was like 24 or 28. I can't quite remember what the shoe size was. But he goes on and on about why that number is so fantastic. And then he goes to his room and continues working on math problems. She notices that he only wears like these very old suits. He has like ones for winter, ones for summer, and they're all like darker colors, but he has pinned like post-it notes or scraps of paper of things that he is supposed to remember. So they're kind of like, some of them she can read and some of them that she can't, but she's like, oh, that doesn't matter, like the notes are for him. Later on, after she's been there like a couple times, though he doesn't know she's been there a couple times, he makes a note that says like new housekeeper, and he actually tried like drawing sort of what she looked like. So they kind of start to have this like nice back and forth. He's constantly talking about math in the most beautiful way. Like, I've never heard math described so beautifully. It was like poetry. It was so gorgeous that it started to grow my appreciation for math to be much stronger. Like, it was just so beautiful. It was so beautiful. But okay, anyway. One day she's making dinner for him, and he's like, it's getting kind of like later, you don't have to make me dinner, like you should go home to your husband. And she's like, I don't have a husband. And he's like, really? Like you have no one at home? And she goes, well, I have my son, he's 10, but you know, he's probably out at the park playing with his friends, like I'll get home to him. The professor freaks out. He's like, you're taking care of little old weird me, and your son is just out and about in the world, in the city, with friends at some park? What if he's at home? What if he's at home and a fire starts and he doesn't get out? And you're here making me some weird dinner. No, no, no. And he runs over to the table, rips the piece of paper off that says housekeeper, and also scribbles as fast as he can, new housekeeper, the drawing of her, and 10-year-old son, and he sticks it on, and he goes, you need to bring your son here, like when he gets off work, or sorry, when he gets out of school, he should come here and he can do his homework or whatever here, but he shouldn't be without his mother, you should have him here. And she's like, it's fine. Like, I've been a single mom this kid's entire life. He's had to, you know, be at home for a while I'm out at work. He's fine. And the professor is just like, absolutely fucking not. The professor's like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You need to bring your son here, and we will, you know, he can hang out here. And she's like, okay. So she brings him the next day. She's kind of explaining to her son, like, okay, so he doesn't have a lot of his memory. Restarts like he only has like 80 minutes of memory. So just like do your homework, kind of stay out of his way, whatever. The professor loves this little boy immediately. Like total grandpa sweet vibes. He nicknames the boy Root because he has a flat head. And so he nicknames him Root, and he helps with his math. And what I really liked was the housekeeper is observing him doing his the housekeeper is observing the professor helping Root with his homework, and she noticed that he's not ever like condescending when he's asking her son a question about like a problem or something. Like he's just waiting patiently for the boy to respond or to figure it out himself, even if the answer is quote unquote obvious. He still celebrates the boy for coming to that conclusion, and it's very, very sweet. It was so incredibly heartwarming, and it made the boy even more interested in math as well, which relatable on that, because I was finding math really interesting. The housekeeper was finding math very, very interesting. I feel like I should pause and let y'all know, because this is an important part of the story, and I'm just now realizing, maybe you've noticed I haven't said any character names. That's because absolutely no character names are given except for Root, which is a nickname. So there's no name for the housekeeper, there's no name for the professor, there's no name for the housekeeper's other colleagues, there's no name for the sister-in-law, there's no names. And that's actually a question in the back of the book, and like the book club questions is, what does it mean that the author chose not to name people in her book? I think that is just a huge reflection on the professor's memory. Although the book isn't from his perspective, it is like an outside person coming into his life where he's not going to remember her name. And so since this is such a close observation of him, like why would we need to know anybody's names when he's just going to forget? I also feel like if there were names, that probably would have slowed a little bit of like the pacing down if this character was constantly like, hi, my name's Linda. Oh, 80 minutes. Hi, I'm Linda. Like, yes, she had to say like, I'm the professor, but or I'm the housekeeper, but I don't know. I feel like not having names was such great symbolism for how the professor is experiencing his day to day. But anyway, back to the professor and Root. They have a really cute, sweet relationship. Root goes home and is like all about math. The housekeeper is even all about math. She's trying to figure out problems and stuff. Throughout the book, they learn more about the professor based on just like her cleaning around, you know, getting in the nooks and crannies, finding a secret tin full of baseball cards and maybe some pictures with some love notes. It's very nice. But all in all, I loved this book so much. It is definitely just like a moment of time. It's not until the very end of the book where we get like a rapid fashion I almost said zip zoom into the future, but we'll go with it. A zip zoom into the future where we're like, oh, okay, so Root is now 11. Now Root is like in high school. Now Root is in college. Now Root is getting a job as a full-on independent adult. And we're still seeing how the professor is a part of their life. And it was so incredibly heartwarming. It was so heartwarming. It was sad noticing, like, it's a very short book, right? But you start to tell, like, oh, the professor is definitely getting older, and the issue surrounding his memory is becoming more and more prevalent. Like, even, I think Root is the first to notice that, like, oh, his memory didn't last 80 minutes. It was much shorter now. And seeing Root's love and adoration for the professor was very, very sweet. He felt immensely protective of the professor, and the professor felt very protective of him as well, and they just shared this very sweet bond. Definitely a found family type of trope. The housekeeper also did not know her father growing up, and her mom was a single mom and worked all the time. There was some things that went down between her and her mom where she wasn't talking to her mom for a while. Then she kind of was when Root was little, and then she thought, oh great, like my mom and my son will have, you know, this relationship. And then her mother passed away, so Root doesn't have any grandparents, and it was really sweet to see him love being around the professor so much and seeing this like grandfather grandson type of relationship develop between the two of them. The ending, I was bawling my eyes out. I think I wrote that in my Storygraph review. I wrote it, by the way, in tears. The screen was blurry, so if you look at it and there's like typos, just know I couldn't really see the screen because I was crying so much. But this book was so gorgeous. I found a lot of relatability between Root and the professor. Not that my grandfather loved math and now I love math, definitely no. But just, I don't know, that like grandfather love and someone who cares for you and is always encouraging you and believes the best in you at all times. It was just very, very sweet. I definitely have a greater appreciation for math. Lots of times I didn't understand what was being said, and so I read those parts a little slower. But I'm telling you, the way the professor talked about math was so gorgeous that I wish I read this in high school. Like, I was having such a hard time with math in high school. I wish I had found this book and I had read it, because I feel like I would have been like, oh, that's an interesting way to look at math. Or I don't think I maybe immediately would have had a greater appreciation, but I think it would have helped me visualize things a little bit better in math and understand why math can be so cool and why it is fun to learn about math and hear people talk about it. I just think it's great. I love this book. I would need to read more of this author's work. This is absolutely amazing. 5 stars. Yes, yes, yes. I encourage you to read it. Sorry, I did get a little spoilery, but it was hard to not talk about my favorite parts. There's so much that I didn't even mention, even though this is quite a tiny little book. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. I'm glad that I had another book to go into the memory project. Still on the hunt for more books. I'll be reading more books. I just read one that I didn't know was going to be part of the memory project, but it was. That seems to be the theme here. Is me picking up a book and then being like, oh, this like heavily has to do with memory in the way that is like personal to me. So that's nice. But again, as always, if you have any other recommendations, please drop them in the comments. Thank you for liking and subscribing. If you're looking for other ways to support me other than hitting a subscribe button, I do own a hair care business. It is called Emmy's Hair Care. I will have a link to the website and a link to my business Instagram down below. This is a hair oil that works for all hair types and all hair porosities. So if you are looking for something going into spring, summer, boom, those are your best bet. Okay. Thank y'all so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye!